That's a Shame is brought to you by the people who support us over at patreon.com/shamecity.
If you have $1,
$2.
$1 to spare, join us again at patreon.com/shamecity. Hello, and welcome to another free, that is to say non-exclusive episode.
And free key, given the season.
I see what you're
That's
doing
on
there.
one play. Keep going, keep the momentum.
Of That's a Shame,
God.
the podcast. My name is Declan.
Yeah.
Opposite me is Isaac. That's the duo you know and love.
It's spelled EYESAC this month because the eyes, they're the portal to the terrors.
Oh, is an
How are you spelling your one?
Sack. Me?
Yeah.
Just exactly
Deadclan.
the same.
Deadclan's very good.
No,
you
it's
can have
bad.
that.
I don't mind.
What's the episode this week then? I mean, how are you doing? Great? Good. Me too.
Yeah,
What's
okay,
the
good.
episode?
Well, I don't know because you made up a very long, complicated title that didn't really mean anything.
No, it does mean a lot, and I'll be honest.
It doesn't mean anything.
The main reason I made it up was because it just sounded good, sort of juxtaposed against titles
The Spoken Word.
Spoken Word and Digital Fright Night. A concept we are yet to really expand upon beyond just that. There's a little peek behind the scenes. But this one, a contemporary ethnography of Halloween, could not be more fleshed out than it is.
Could it not?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what springs to mind when you hear those words?
Well,
and then I'll just wheel us right back in
okay.
with a deep dive.
I'll tell you what. Because I was having to tell your girlfriend this anyway.
Go on.
Because she presumed that you saying I can't come over and have dinner with everyone like a nice sociable person because I'm doing the podcast was just a false excuse because we do the podcast together and I was there having dinner. And I said, no, it quite possibly is genuine.
And look at the amount of notion I've got there.
Yeah, you don't have to show off your fucking MacBook
There's a real bit of research
again
on this free MacBook, what I got given.
So you don't have to do that.
You should get a free
MacBook. You're right. I should. I should.
Declan at shame.city if you can facilitate that. Steve, if you're listening.
So
Tim Apple.
So I was having to explain vaguely why you might actually be busy doing some research. And it was because you'd made up that. That's okay. I got your back, dude. You missed out, though. It's very lovely. And it was because you'd made up this nonsense title. What was a contemporary ethnography of Halloween.
Yeah.
And what I remember, because I was busy reading and researching spoken word content as you were kind of trying to create this calendar, this Spooktober event. All I vaguely remember you saying was something along the lines of, the QAnon guys, they must think something about Halloween.
And it turns out they don't. There's nothing.
And then the next minute you had decided on this title, and I just sort of nodded along. So to my mind, what we're gonna hear a lot of what QAnon has to say about Halloween and nothing else.
Well, let's dive in, shall we?
Okay, sure.
I met an old big phantom at Libdom Party conference, and its ideas were beyond reproach.
The Collins Online Dictionary defines Halloween or Halloween as, quote, the night of the 31st of October, traditionally said to be the time when ghosts and witches can be seen. On Halloween, children often dress up as ghosts and witches. End quote.
Are we a sort of like right-wing chud podcast now using...
In this episode, we will explore the ways in which the famous spooky evening of celebration, Halloween, is struggling. Struggling.
Oh, God.
To adapt to a world in which reality is increasingly more...
Go on.
Ghoulish.
That's politics. That's politics, isn't it? Is that what you're
fiction,
doing?
If you like politics. Wait for this sentence.
Okay, go on.
A world in which a concomitance of factors, and that's a very fancy word.
You don't need to say that.
From the up-and-coming
things.
novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 COVID disease pandemic to the goddamn Cheeto in the White House leaves us wondering just
You've been watching Spitting Image, haven't you?
Just what the frightening fun holiday night Halloween is even for anymore.
It's interesting that you say this because I personally have felt that certainly over the last decade, Halloween's been in a real boom.
Yeah, and yet 2020 it's on a real slump.
I don't think that's
really
unique
sad
to Halloween, though, is it?
It's only Halloween. All other festivities, they're doing better than ever.
Are they?
According to some researchers, yeah.
Okay, go on. Well, who?
You
in your
wouldn't know
notion,
them.
who have you got?
You wouldn't know
well, that's
them
all right.
by
Let us
name.
know, because then
I'll put the notes.
myself and the listeners, we can...
Well, any long-term listeners know that we always have our citations in the description. MLA, of course.
We're not monsters.
Come on. So you can look there. Now, I've split this deep dive into 3 parts. And really, although you sort of accurately captured one element of the conception of this podcast idea, in the sense that originally I was interested in how QAnon feel about Halloween, because this is probably QAnon's biggest Halloween ever. Hopefully it's the biggest it will ever be. Although that's probably not going to be the case. No. If I know anything about the great big arc of history, it bends towards total madness. But what I found instead was just a weird sort of snapshot of what's going on in the big world through 3 lenses that I've split the episode into. And I'll explain them to you now. Part 1 is science, and it's a short part. And I wanted to think about how government and how the CDC, the NHS, how they're responding to Halloween and the particular challenges that it poses. There's not a huge amount here. It's just really a kind of archival exercise, because in the future this will be all that people have to go on for what it was like.
What, your notion?
Pretty much. Now I've printed out and
you've sent it to the Cambridge University Press.
After that, we're going to be looking at current affairs and the news, and that's going to be really the bulk of the episode.
Well, that's probably my area of expertise.
That's why I like to put in the middle, because I know that's where you really come into.
You know me, I'm an up-to-date, up-to-the-minute guy.
But rather than just looking at the way in which journalists kind of refract through the prism of their own weirdness.
Bloody MSM, eh?
Yeah.
Am I right?
That particular angle, I thought we'd look as well at hoi polloi, at the commenters, and really get to know what they want to know. And then last of all, we're going to be having a brief peek into our erstwhile pals, the hashtag God Gang, and seeing how the religious people
God Gang
are meshing their hatred of Halloween with the whole corona angle.
They do not believe Halloween to be a godful time,
it's certainly bad if you love religion. You do not want Halloween around.
Oh, that's
for
a
the
shame.
most part.
What about, because as far as I know, it's quite old Halloween.
Super old. Yeah.
What did have you had a little look at what Jesus himself had to say?
He was a big fan of it. He was actually the original director of the Scream franchise. Some people think before Wes Craven.
Why do they think that?
There's some, you know how the Bible's made up of different books, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. Like you don't have to be. You don't have to be an academic like me to kind of.
No, you were taught. You did sort of modules in theology, didn't you?
God all the time. Yeah, God jewels we called them at the time. Unfortunately, I found out the guy who taught me is dead now. So,
wait, what? The provost?
Yeah, he died.
What?
I know.
Well, why?
And not even recently.
Well, not even why. Like how is what I mean.
Can't remember, but also.
Well, what do you mean? He wasn't old.
I know he wasn't old.
Wow,
what are you suggesting?
Foul play.
Yeah. God rest him. I really liked that guy.
Yeah, he was all right.
He was unusual. He was nice though. Anyway, that's a tangent.
Sorry, guys.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Dr. Efford, I believe he was called.
Yeah, that was his name. Yeah.
I think he is dead. I'm like 99% sure.
You go on. I'm going to have a little look.
I can't remember what I was saying though. Something about Christ. Anyway, look. We're going to dive straight in. We don't have time to be wasting. This is a tightly constructed, tightly structured, and action-packed deep dive into the Halloween spirit. Here we go. Part 1, science. In evaluating the scientific response to Halloween, in the middle of 2020 year of our Lord, where the pandemic is raging. You've seen it, haven't you? You've seen
it's going on all around.
Many of the effects. You're working in a school, which some are calling the hotbed of the Rona these days. And so it behoves us, I think, to just know how to stay safe around the holiday fun time. Here's the advice the CDC have. I've sort of narrowed down a very long document into just some of my favourite bits. And they're my favourite bits because they're either like so obvious that it's a shame you have to say it, or so specific that I just wonder what they're on about. First of all, the question of masks, and you will probably have seen this doing the rounds.
Yeah.
But they did have to kind of unfortunately put out a big statement about what sort of mask constitutes a biologically protective mask. And it turns out that it's none of the Halloween ones, unfortunately. They say do not wear a costume mask over a cloth mask because it can be dangerous if the costume mask makes it hard to breathe. Instead, consider using a Halloween-themed cloth mask, the likes of which I'm sure are all over Etsy, even as we speak.
Like Pumpkin Smile, I'm sure, is there.
Yeah, absolutely. They've split the various activities that one can theoretically, but in my view doesn't frequently do for Halloween, into low, moderate and high risk. The low ones are all what you'd expect. It's stuff like having a Halloween party with just the people you live with. One of their suggested activities was why not decorate your living space, which I think is like a stretch to call an activity, perhaps. Under moderate activities, and just tell me if this is something that you've done, here's one of their recommendations. Go to a haunted forest where appropriate mask use is enforced. People can remain more than 6 feet apart. Go to a haunted forest where appropriate mask use is enforced. People can remain more than 6 feet apart.
That's interesting. I went to a forest today.
Haunted or?
Not while I was there, but it was in the day. So it's less haunted then, I suppose.
Not a lot less, though. That's a misconception.
There was a haunted man who cursed us in a very minor way, in that we went down a little dirt track that was mostly meant for bikes.
Yeah, that's your first mistake.
But we went down there and it was all fine. We saw a deer.
Alive or?
A live deer.
Ghost.
A live deer dancing on his way, like,
frolicking
through. And then we were like, wow, that's amazing. And then we stopped to the side to let these people pass through. And the guy went, oh yeah, really good path down there. You see loads of deer. Didn't see another deer all day. Not another deer all day. So I think
that's demonic.
That's not normal, is it?
It's a cult, what he did there.
You would expect, like, law of averages, you'd see at least one other deer, surely.
To see no deer, that's weirder than seeing, like, a deer in your own flat, probably.
Yeah.
My particular sort of qualm with this was their use of the phrase haunted forest in a scientific piece of literature. Yeah. It seems like quite a... It's probably the first time science is acknowledged.
Maybe they're just trying to get into the spirit, like the festive spirit.
Nice.
I can't stop myself.
But it does seem like the CDC is tacitly saying that some forests are
They know.
And it's moderately good to go to them.
Is this like David Chase letting slip about the end of The Sopranos?
I think so.
Kind of, oh no.
If screaming will occur, greater distancing is advised. The greater the distance, the lower the risk of spreading a virus with the scream. That's just sensible.
That is sensible, but also if you're going to a haunted forest, you can't be accountable for when you're going to be screaming because it's not up to you.
Yeah, it's up to the spirits and ghouls.
And honestly, many of them, look, I don't want to.
I think.
Well, they do relish the surprise. You're right, and I don't want to cast aspersions about the spirit world and those who reside there. But many of them, and this could be my filmic bias, but many of them, they are looking to cause trouble and angst,
especially
and therefore,
filthy pervert ghosts. They will want to touch you all over in a spooky way.
Therefore, they are going to do that when you're near people so that the scream does spread the virus.
That's true. They probably get off on that, to be honest, and that will kind of.
And then when you die and you pass into their realm, they'll be like, that's
the circle of life, baby. High risk. Now, these are two activities that, you know, people are going to do.
Is it fucking?
There's no two ways about it, right?
Is it Halloween spooky fucking?
It's not, because that comes under... They've already released all kinds of very weird advice, like an alien wrote it about fucking in probably most countries, but the UK's, like...
Our advice was just
so
don't.
Strange. It's don't, but then there's weird...
If you must,
there was a weird interview with Matt Hancock where they tried to pin him down on what constituted like a casual relationship, and he was like, "Well, I think everyone has their own." And they're like, "Okay, but if you'd been like dated, like the interview was clearly just wanted to say like, if you were sleeping with someone,
would you still sleep with them?"
But she couldn't quite get to that point. These high risk activities, I'm going to say, our stance on TAS is, if possible, and you know it's a big if. Do avoid these for just this season.
Oh, okay, go on. Let's have a
Going on hay rides or tractors with people who are not in your household. Now, if that's part of your normal Halloween lineup, I know you're going to be gutted.
Yeah, and
I know you are.
It's a sacred tradition. We see it around here in Colindale as well.
We can't stop doing it. But we are going to,
and
importantly.
Yeah.
In case the CDC is listening.
No one is more disappointed than Isaac.
Yeah.
They've said you can't,
Love a tractor.
you can't have
Everyone will know.
interfamilial tractor
I'm a
rides.
deeply agricultural guy. I think that reads on the podcast. I have a great love of nature and of getting up early and of mud.
Sometimes you wander into the living room. He's just sat there eating his dinner. He's not
Listening
watching
to
YouTube.
Colin Joe.
He's not. He's not watching YouTube. He's just chatting to himself about crop rotations and
Love that
fallow
stuff.
fields and
Love knowing what fallow is. The other one that I'm afraid is probably cancelled for this year.
Don't say it because I feel like you're going.
Is your annual trunk or treat, where treats are handed out from trunks of cars lined up in large parking lots.
No, not the trunk or treat.
The trunky tea is off. You can't fucking do it.
But
And for me, that
I was going to get a battery for the car just so that I could head down to the local trunk and treat.
When I read that, my instinct, when sometimes you read something or you see something, you just get that like flash of anger that you can't even suppress.
Yeah.
Even I had that just course through me, and I had to really just take a moment and be like, it's for a good cause.
I can't believe. Well,
Go on.
Well, I don't want to say.
You weren't going to argue that it's for a good cause, were you? That we can't do trunk or treat.
No, I was going to say, whose fault it is.
Oh, go on.
I don't want to blame him.
Go on.
But I've been reading on the internet.
What are they saying on there?
Well, they're saying it's the Chinese.
The China flu. I've heard a lot of prominent politicians talking about that too, and I guess that
because when
do they do trunk or treat in China? I don't know.
Because when that first kind of was being touted online and in the news, I was thinking this seems like an incredibly kind of racist conspiracy theory.
What, that China did coronavirus to prevent us doing trunk or treat and hay rides?
Yeah, well, and everything. And
I think that's probably the main reason.
Well, that's what was in their sights. But, I think that the tacit idea behind the theory was that they also thought, as well as stopping the trunk and treat and the interfamilial hay rides, they might also kind of like bring down America and all of this. And I was thinking, wow, it seems like a really short-sighted, bigoted, xenophobic kind of racist view.
Well, no one died in China, did they? Because if you were doing that sort of attack, then you wouldn't want to.
Well, I don't know the numbers myself. I know I said I'm a news guy, but I don't know the numbers on that one myself.
You're not. Yeah.
But what I think is they wouldn't let that persist in the news, and they certainly wouldn't be like ramping up when things are getting disproportionately worse here. Just if it wasn't true, would they? If I
know our good old ruling class, and I call them that with affection because I love to be ruled. I love to be dominated by a feudal sort of system. He's
always looking up rules just to make sure he's following
to have them enforced upon me.
Yeah.
I think they've got our best interests firmly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's it for science. Science, you know what scientists are like? They want us to have fun, and they want us to have fun safely. So listen, I know it's tough, and I can only hope that you and I, Declan, and you and I, the listener, will be back on the tractor in 2021.
Maybe, yeah, but we're not waiting until October 2021, are we? Like we
can maybe probably do a harvest sort of thing. When's harvest?
Well, that's
I have no clue.
That's
what
like
is.
That's like around this time as well.
Oh, is it? Oh, fuck that then. May Day. That sounds like a fun one for a tractor.
That's a long old way away still, isn't it?
Part 2 of this contemporary ethnography of Halloween takes on a different lens, and this is really what to me is the essence of an ethnography is the lived experience, right? And what's more lived and experienced than being in the UK and reading about other people in the UK? And that's what we're going to be doing. I found a few articles that really take different approaches to dissecting the Hallow fever, as we like to call it, on TAS. And then, they're not from some of the more prestigious outlets, but then I always feel that those journalists are they're using $5 words and they're writing $5 stories.
Yeah. And
sometimes you just want to read a bunch of shit.
I feel like those journalists in scare quotes.
That's nice. Scary quotes. Yeah. You could even say. That just makes it a double
I'll think
joke.
about it. Yeah.
That's just
in scary scare quotes. They're
triple joke.
That I feel like they're being given lines as well, I don't think they're always writing from the heart. Whereas who was the first one? Did you say?
So this is from the Express, and they always write from the heart in the Express.
They've got a lot of racist hearts at the Express, haven't they?
A bunch of them, mostly. But I don't think I really agree with that criticism that you've levelled at some of the broadsheets.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the broad there, if you know what I mean. I meant in terms
women?
of... Yeah, oh no, I didn't mean that. No.
All right. Okay.
I meant in terms of their sort of
Fat
brushstrokes.
cats. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
This, I don't think, was being written from any particular party line because it's an article entitled "Not the Party Spirit. Clairvoyant blasts, quote, irresponsible Poundland for selling £1 Ouija boards for Halloween." And it's hard to know in whose interest or in whose pocket, the pocket of Big Ouija, this particular article finds itself.
Well, this is not Big Ouija, is it? Aren't they being flamed for it?
I think if you were in the pocket of Big Ouija, then you wouldn't want £1 Ouija boards on the market. I think you'd be saying...
No, Big Ouija do. It's
indie
Ouija who don't.
I don't know. I think part inherent to
or
the
maybe
occult is the prestige.
maybe it's a like known like all publicity is good publicity thing where they're like they weren't selling enough £1 Ouija boards, so they've done they've
Really
planted an article.
That's really big.
They've paid off. I'm not saying they have paid them off, but who was it?
This Medium.
Who wrote?
Oh, I don't know. I do not credit journalists because I don't think they would deserve.
Oh, is this a journalist at the Express?
It's a journalist who, well, in a sense.
Okay.
But who we will be crediting is the Medium, and that's Julie Tetley, age 64.
Oh, they've paid her off.
She's from Scarborough, and she does claim that the devices can, quote, destroy lives. Poundland is selling £1 boards in their Creepy Town Halloween displays. She worries children will pick them up, quote, for fun. And I hate it when this happens. Summon the spirits inadvertently.
No.
So it's not even about those children who are trying to do it.
Okay, well, here's something I don't know, and maybe more enlightened listeners, maybe yourself.
Yeah, I'm quite
one of the most enlightened listeners that we have. Could enlighten me. Is a £1 Ouija board like just as good for summoning the spirit? Is it that the spirits, they're not picky? They'll go to any old board?
The thing about spirits is they don't follow our rules. And so, sometimes people will come at you with one of these things where it's like the spirits are only inhabiting these very expensive, even antique Ouija boards that are involved in suspicious crimes, like the antique Ouija board of a serial killer or something.
Right, yeah.
Who maybe used it whilst planning their next victim. But in contemporary ghostology, most of us on the forums do agree that the Ouija board is just, it's tools, not rules, is what we like to say.
Could we just get a couple of bits of paper, stick them together and make one?
I think sometimes when we've done our cups feature, we have been doing that under the influence of
demons.
God. Just because it's a bit similar.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar.
Yeah,
that's what you would say.
It's essentially the same.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So we're going to read through this.
Okay,
there's a lot to unpack here, but I think what we want to say up front is that Julie, she does have everyone's best interests at heart.
That's good.
That will become even more clear.
She's the hero of this story.
For sure. A medium has blasted Poundland as being utterly irresponsible for flogging Ouija boards for Halloween. Clairvoyant Tetley claims the devices can destroy people's lives and, quote, spirits can cause suicides. She fears she will be busy in the next couple of months dealing with the fallout from people dabbling in the dark arts by inadvertently summoning sinister spirits, that's some alliteration for you, Bob Honey, eat your heart out, using the £1 prop. The 64-year-old medium was horrified to discover the boards, a firm favourite in horror movies, were being sold as a Halloween decoration in the Scarborough branch of the store. Although Julie accepts the board is merely a tool, she says it encourages people to, quote, open up their energies and communicate with spirits, some more, quote, sinister than others.
Ooh.
She claimed people should leave the so-called game well alone, as she believes that evil spirits can lead to suicides among those they are attached to. This next sentence is low-key the maddest part of the article, and it has prompted me, as you may have seen in our Discord, and if you haven't, you can find it there, to contact Poundland's press team to find out the logic behind this decision. Sale of the product, even in advance of this media storm, is restricted to over 18s, and the product is labelled for adults only, as if it's like a sex thing or like drugs. Why would they do that? It implies that whoever made it thinks it is real. I need someone from Poundland to go on record and say because ghosts are real, we had to restrict
because you could die using it.
Like what? That really caught me off guard when I read that. I was like, what a strange decision.
Wonder, if there is a particular, because with things like, say, a scary movie, that's not actually dangerous to you in the sense of being able to hurt you.
No, but we have longest. Well, I would argue that it is potentially. I think you can be psychologically scarred.
Yes,
from
but
the intention of a movie.
Yeah, but that's that is the trade-off there, is it can't actually hurt you, but it has content that could be damaging.
A Ouija board is just letters
the alphabet,
and a
really.
circle.
Yeah.
It's just, are you banning the whole alphabet? I think this is really, they've buried the lead, and that is like, I'll update listeners when we hear back from Poundland. I can only assume it's going to take a while. But
they're too busy flogging
God,
£1 Ouija.
Stop,
Hashtag £1 Ouija.
Julie from Scarborough said it's totally and utterly irresponsible for Poundland to be selling this. It's horrendous. Children will buy them.
Well, they can't.
No, yeah, that's true. Children will buy them. They just want fun. They see it on TV. We're referring to fun, I think. They don't understand what they're doing. What a funny description of children.
They see fun on TV.
These 3 things apply to children. They just want fun. They see it on TV. They don't understand what they're doing. It can destroy their lives in every way.
In every way. I thought it was a really specific way.
No.
Oh, God.
It can bring negative influences around you all the time. They need to know the intent of using these boards is to speak to the spirit. And I'm curious about that phrasing as well.
Him.
Like,
or them.
Which one? I've got here a little snapshot. The @UK Haunted Twitter account, which I can only imagine is one of the fucking endless dross programs where Derek Acora goes, oh, there's a fucking ghost in that room, and then just everyone screams at nothing.
Yeah.
They tweeted, when the pound shop sells Ouija boards for Halloween, as if this year wasn't bad enough. And someone replied, @ZombieSands, the question is, what kind of spirit would be summoned by a Poundland Ouija board? I like the idea that there's like an elitism.
A discount spirit.
I'm not getting out of bed for a Poundland Ouija. Sometimes people say, this board doesn't work. It hasn't moved. But
Go on,
they
crucially.
have already opened up that channel to spirits. Then they'll know about that later.
Oh,
Julie threatened us.
that's a very interesting loophole to, wow, the Ouija
Nothing
board is
happened.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, it could later.
I love this introductory clause, and I'm sort of jealous that it doesn't and will never apply to me. A medium all her life, comma. Julie said that those
From day dot.
those untrained in energies may find themselves at the mercy of, quote, unscrupulous characters.
What I want to
looking
know
take
is, like,
advantage.
every time the Spooktober comes around,
Yeah.
And we get
have
the
a little
fucking
moral outrage.
the
A moral
Halloween
panic.
episode, and we kind of like look into summoning the spirits.
Yeah.
It's always the most
convoluted,
ludicrous,
yeah.
complicated,
We tried to
and
summon a single
equipment
poet,
heavy
and it took us hours.
set of
to
instructions.
drink wine all
You
the
couldn't inadvertently do it, even if you were looking to do so.
does seem
So,
hard.
like, what does she? Oh, hang on! Oh no, he's dropped the board. Jimmy's moved it on to no. Oh,
no,
God!
you spat out
Beelzebub
ghost.
himself is here. Like, we had candles; they were blown out. They were
we
lit up.
chanted in
We
Latin.
had wine. We did absolutely everything.
Walked around in a circle for a bit.
There was all of that, and yet we didn't get a single fucking dead poet.
Yet.
There was that bread that flew off the top counter.
But that,
so
in fact, was in before that. By
Yeah,
about
yeah,
a
it was.
year. So
No.
maybe we've got one of those time travel.
we inadvertently opened it up. Oh,
yeah,
God.
advance.
It's mad, isn't it? Julie's right.
Julie said, you get people who are unscrupulous, people who would take advantage, and
bet you
people
get-
who are very sinister.
I bet you get demons like that as well.
So far, she's just talking about people in real life.
Oh, okay.
Because then she says, you also get the same in spirits.
Ah.
So she's kind of a cynic, I think.
Yeah.
Julie. She sees humanity for what it is, which is a great big dirty.
Well, she's been a medium all her life.
Their personality is still there, is still who they are in spirit form. And if a darker energy attaches itself to a naive person, they will just take advantage. They can cause stress and worry.
Wow.
I like this bit as
No
well.
one's suffering with that already.
She goes from, and this is a common thing with like ghost people, and we talked about it in
Sorry, it's a common thing with who?
ghost people.
Oh, ghost people.
Yeah, we talked
By which you don't actually mean ghosts.
People
you
who are
mean
ghosts.
people who are obsessed by / involved with ghosts.
sort of people in the professional ghost.
People who are ghost adjacent.
Yeah. The ghost adjacents will often, and we talked about this in our episode about astral projecting, which I can't remember what it was called, but it was quite good. They oscillate from so vague things like, if you look at a Ouija board, a bad thing might happen once, to so specific. And this is in the latter category. They'll give them information that's right. So, first of all, that sounds good. They could give you the lottery numbers.
I wish they would.
Then, all of a sudden, and she
no.
must be speaking from experience,
Here's the twist.
this board will spell out something like, they're going to be a fatal accident, grammar mistake and all, or one of your parents is going to be killed.
Oh no!
First of all, a Ouija board spelling that out would take ages.
Forever.
It would take a really long time. They'll say something horrendous.
Interestingly, quite similar to the threatening messages that our narrator received from Toad in the Spook and Word episode.
So perhaps the Mario 64 was acting as a kind of Ouija board, a digital Ouija.
Yeah, well,
Just a thought.
there's nothing in this article. Julie hasn't told me anything to say that there has to be a physical board
No,
there.
she hasn't. In fact, she said only bullshit.
So what she's saying is it's not just the Poundland boards. You just got to be careful every second of the day
Anytime there's a couple
that you
of some
don't
letters
inadvertently.
Yeah, spell out, come over, Satan, and he does, takes you up on it. They'll say something horrendous and have that person worried because the other things they've given have been true. It can cause a lot of stress. The spirit will start to manipulate their mind.
Hang on, but that implies that those things that the spirits are saying, the cruel things, are not true.
Yeah, it does imply that. But I think but
the main thing is just that you'll be worried that they are.
Yeah, and that.
But if
must
you believe
take a
in
huge
ghosts,
toll.
you surely are worried about those things anyway.
No, this is only when a ghost tells you.
Sorry.
But I like. She's also sort of unlocked a secret exploit in ghost lore, which is that a ghost is powerless to tell you anything other than the truth.
The truth.
So
the truth, or
yeah,
they're powerless to tell you anything other than good truths and bad and horrible
bad
lies.
So you're like, oh, the lottery number is 4. Your mum's dead. You're like, well, okay.
Yeah, well,
oh no,
I'll
I'm
pop
very
a couple
scared.
of quid on 4 then.
Very good ghosts. It can almost cause suicide, so it's very dangerous.
Oh, well, if it's almost...
Concerned Julie said spirits summoned through a Ouija board cause lingering problems for years, and she does advise people to avoid using them. And now there's just another... I'm really fascinated by the way Julie's mind works. She just sort of is... She's quite a deep thinker, I think, but in a way that the article's author has not really captured, like, what the space was between these different thoughts, because now she just says something quite profound. She says, time's nothing to spirits. They can lie dormant for years and suddenly surface. Like Einstein said, you cannot destroy energy, it just changes form. My advice is to steer clear of Ouija boards. Like, what's the link? Is that what Einstein was going on about?
I don't think he knew that was what he was talking about. But again, he's
More
inadvertently,
more for you, Albert.
he was naively limited to the idea of the entire universe, and he failed to think about ghosts.
I know people are interested around Halloween as they want to do what they call spooky things. I don't know what she means by that. She has a different definition. It's certainly not for the faint-hearted.
She's got us there because that's exactly what we want to do.
They should leave it well alone and do something else. Now, this was on, I think I said the Express, it could have been the Standard. As I say, I don't respect journalists, so I didn't take note of many of them.
Okay.
Unless it was to criticise them particularly. And this article was fine. It was written fine. Some of the comments, though, really do leave a lot to be desired in terms of who we're sharing our big country with, I guess. Because there's a lot of people who are...
not the comments.
In my view, just... I don't know, they're just sort of... Some of them are cynics, and some of them just aren't giving Julie the time of day, and I don't like that. Especially not in Spooktober. I think you've got to be open-minded, haven't you?
You definitely have.
Not so open-minded that a demon flies in.
You don't want to leave the mind agape.
No.
You just want it to be receptive.
A healthy amount of ajar, I think.
Exactly.
But then there are some people as well who have taken it, if anything, more seriously than Julie. Let's just dive in. We've got Mummy Quattro, who says, I have a healthy respect for the dark arts and would never entertain one of those boards, which is a very weird way of phrasing
That's
that.
all right. Well, good for you.
I consider myself to be a down-to-earth, level-headed type, but there's no way I'd have one of these things in my house. My own brother told me about his adventures, and it scared him. It scared him more when the events predicted came to be. That's from In the Wake of the Flood, who described himself as a down-to-earth,
what were the events?
type. Oh, they didn't get into that.
Maybe it was that flood.
It could have been. I have heard lots of strange things happening with these Ouija boards, says this person. He's very online.
He's read the
very
article.
switched on. I'd much prefer a Ouija board than a PlayStation. Far more interesting. Someone replied, you can turn a PlayStation off though. And then someone else replied, can you? Such an interesting little commentary. 3 people really talking past each other, I found.
Yeah, 3 people who none of whom seem to have complete knowledge of either the subject they claim to be an expert in, nor the subject that they're responding to.
Using one of these is a great way to get your house haunted, and believe me, that is not fun. At best, you can
What
get
do you
possessed.
want? Your house haunted? Get one of these.
What about at best you can get possessed? What's above that?
The most we can hope for from this. The best outcome.
Ouija boards, this is in the category again, like Julie's Einstein thing, of just 2 sentences don't relate. I understand why the person thinks they do, but they don't. Ouija boards are not toys and should never be used by children. We live in a vast universe. We're probably not alone. They don't contact aliens, do they, Ouija boards, traditionally?
I love the idea that his thinking there is either that he has conflated ghosts and aliens, or that the universe is so big there's probably ghosts somewhere.
Someone replied to this saying, yes, they are quite literally games, originally designed and distributed by Waddington as a parlour game, which is true, I think. But I don't think they came from that. They were popularised by that.
Yeah.
And then the original person who said we live in the vast universe said, not true. They are not just games, but a simple yet powerful psychic device. They were originally marketed by William Fuld, a businessman from Baltimore who suffered an uncanny death. And I thought, oh, that's piqued my interest.
Not an uncanny death.
An uncanny death is a very weird description of a death. So I looked it up and I went on his Wikipedia. On February 24th, 1927, Fuld climbed to the roof of his 3-story factory to supervise the installation of a flagpole, and he fell off.
Oh,
pretty uncanny.
That
right?
is spooky.
That's where the ghosts will get you, is the roof.
Yeah, because anyone would look at that and think, there's a man who died in an old school hard hat accident. He's climbed on the roof to do some work. He's not taken the necessary precautions, and he's fallen off.
I think he had a heart attack and fell off or something. Like it didn't seem to me too uncanny, but I guess maybe I don't know all the details.
You know, I was reading recently about this person who was a comedian.
Oh, yeah?
And then they unfortunately were diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, no.
And then they died. And I was like,
that's uncanny.
That's pretty weird, isn't it?
Uncanny.
Like, because you think funny person, sad death,
not funny death,
and you think, what's going on there?
Yeah,
something's afoot.
Someone up there's playing with their light and shade. Getting some of that contrast.
I think that's what they call.
Go on.
Hang on, no. Let me know. Give me a second to get it.
Okay, I'll read another few comments while you have a think.
Dark humour.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah,
like something Spitting Image would do, maybe.
Typing. No one's safe there. No one is safe.
Yeah, they'll get Greta. I am typing this comment from the other side. The funniest part is you'll think I'm joking. This has big 2-sentence horror story energy. Someone just practicing in the comments. And then the last one from this article is, least we'll get some company in lockdown. Bring on the ghost.
Bring on the ghosts.
This is a very short little middle interlude to our news section. Very brief article, mostly a picture for you to look at. Amazon masks. Amazon to remove hugely distasteful coronavirus Halloween masks. Rebecca Spear-Cole reports in The Standard.
Oh dear.
They cost £14.59.
I don't want to see it. That's spooky already. 15 quid.
There's a great bit in the article where Rebecca Spear-Cole, I guess she just wanted us to be well informed, because she does mention that they're manufactured in China.
Okay, yeah.
She makes a sort of a whole.
Well, lots of
paragraph
things
about
are.
that.
Lots of things are.
Yeah.
That's,
And I guess, like, you know, a cynical media interpreter would say that you were trying to, like, I don't know, like draw a comparison.
Foster some sort of racist connection.
Yeah, but I doubt Rebecca. She's got a double barrel surname, and those people, myself included,
I'm inclined to think they're trustworthy.
Yeah, well, they're probably rich and went to a fancy school.
That's good, isn't it? Let's have a look.
I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it.
Go on, yeah.
It will frighten, quote, everyone at the party, according to the description, and leave an, quote, amazing and lasting impression.
Oh, no.
Rachel Power, the chief executive of the Patients Association, told The Sun, these masks show a
For the
terrible
what?
lack of judgment. Patients Association, I guess people who've been in hospital. They show a terrible lack of judgment, and I hope they will be removed. Amazon simply said, we are removing this product.
Okay.
Let me just zoom in so you get a big look at them. I'm going to give you the 1, 2, 3 turnaround. We've got one with the white background, one with the black. I'm going to go with the black background because you get a bit more contrast.
Spookier as well.
Ready, steady, bang! How would you feel if that came up on your grill?
It is not good.
It looks like Jack Skellington's been diagnosed with every skin disease available.
It's bad. It's actually not as bad as I was thinking. I thought it was going to be something offensive.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. They've gone for
it is ludicrous. But I would not wish to see it. It is... Like, when we say mask, you're probably thinking, listener, like a sort of COVID mask, a little surgical over-the-mouth mask.
Yeah, no.
This is like...
It's like you're wearing the moon on your
Neil
head.
Buchanan from Art Attack took a goldfish bowl and made it into a big, horrific, living virus.
Yeah. There was an article that I didn't bother to read much of because it was so boring and bad. But it was one of those things that they like to do in tabloids, like the Mail and the Sun. I think this was the Mail, in fact, where it's like... for and against something. So it'll be like someone making the woke case and then someone like ripping into
Going,
them,
wow, that's shit,
as
innit?
if, come on. There was about banning Halloween, right? And the overall theme was that everyone in the Daily Mail, they hate Americans now, it turns out. They're all moaning about how Halloween is like an American import and it's so consumerist. And that's famously a problem that the Daily Mail readership has.
Before we kind of fostered the special relationship, there was no kind of ghoulish folklore in this country. That's what I read.
Yeah, that's true. That was where
it was about the kind of like late 17 and early 1800s
where it started.
That we developed even one myth.
Yeah. The first ghost was around the time of Dickens, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he came up with 3.
And then he was like, bang, I'm going to riff on this idea.
So I just went straight to the comments, and here's just a selection to just capture, this is the function of our ethnography, to capture what's going on in our culture and reflect it back.
Yeah, that's got big ethnography vibes.
One of the canteen ladies, says Old Man, once asked me what I was doing for Halloween that year. I told her that I would do what I always did. Absolutely nothing. I may acknowledge the existence of the powers of evil and darkness, but I will never pay any tribute to them.
Wow.
It's a call to arms, really, against the ghosts.
Yeah, by saying that he's not going to partake of
he knows
their
they're
eve.
there, but he's saying, fuck you.
He's got the door firmly shut,
Yeah.
and that means they cannot get in.
Halloween died when it became trick or treat, says Son of the West. We never went begging for sweets in my day, but had fun dressing up and hollowing out turnips for lanterns. Now it's Americanized, you can keep it.
Turnips?
I don't. So I assumed that was just him, but other people say that in the fucking horrid old days, they were hollowing out anything that you could find.
Anything,
One person said
anything that was vaguely
a big
spherical.
potato. You can't hollow out a potato because the skin is not robust.
No.
So what did they mean? I didn't even include that one because it annoyed me so much.
I can really picture you reading
I was just
that.
like, no, it's not true, is it? Come armed with a long stick to knock on doors is a quote from the article. That was the advice of the person who's pro keeping Halloween.
Right.
What could possibly go wrong with hordes of excited kids hyped up on cheap foreign sweets, running around in the dark, waving long sticks about?
This country is so racist. It's really just not. It's. There's nothing you could do at this point, is there?
It's just drown it, really.
Like it is
Into the
very
sea.
hopeless because we kind of tried to make it less racist, and it worked a bit.
But then it really backfired.
really backfired. And now you can put foreign in front of anything.
And
you can put foreign in front of
sell
anything.
a billion copies to centrist and further right dads.
I honestly think if someone did the Veep thing of like Jonah in the last series, where his entire platform for president is that he's anti-math because they're Arabic numbers. They're like Muslim math. Like, if you ran on that platform you would win a supermajority. You could
probably pass a referendum that said we're going to have our own numerals.
You could found a party that was the no Arab maths party, and you would win
Ties
100
in with
seats.
A theme we've talked about before about how, like, men, especially right-wing men, have a weird hang-up about not being very good at maths. And whenever I teach their kids, they're always like, well, I could do it, of course, but it's changed since my day.
Yeah, and it's weird how it often manifests as mocking Diane Abbott for that one time she got some numbers wrong.
Very
it's funny.
They're witty. Yeah. Never mind COVID wards. I hope the eye hospitals are on alert, finishes that person who talked about long sticks. Halloween, these days it's a commercial money trap. In my day, we were content with lighting a lantern and scaring each other round dark corners, looking outside for flying witches. Loved it. Feel sorry for today's kids. Don't. Let me just speak for them. Do not. It is much better.
They'll never know the wonders of having a little lantern, looking for their friends, looking up to the sky for witches, which they cannot do anymore. Have you had a little gander at Mars, by the way? That's spooky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you see it out there?
Pretty hype.
It looks like everything else in the sky.
I am vehemently opposed to trick-or-treating, says Neely. It's begging. There's no other word for it.
Wow. How could I have presumed that the people who don't like trick-or-treating also speak of begging pejoratively?
What gives people the right to go to a stranger's front door and ask for sweets and treats?
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What is
Surely
your point by that?
Any view of like positive liberty would be like, surely libertarians think you should be able to go and ask anyone for candy at any point.
And you can turn them down if you want.
Yeah.
But like,
if my will dominates yours, I'll have your candy.
Yeah, well, that's how it works. It's just mad. Like, what do they mean by like have the right? Like, what person has the right? What sort of postman has the right to step on my front door and knock?
It's amazing. Last couple here. There's one that I just reread, which just really, I mean, it's really sad, but it really does it for me.
Oh, God.
This is not that one. Halloween is an Americanism and only celebrated here of late, which depicts the emergence of the ghoulish woke movement. Admirable. I don't know what that means. I really have tried to pass it.
What do they support? I don't. That's
know.
Interesting.
And then the last, it was coincidentally the last comment that I saw because it was the most recent and I'd started at the back. But also the one that we're going to end up with is very simply from Lukey Luke. It's just like under 10 words and it really sums up kind of a winning vibe in response to this article.
Oh, go on.
Who gives a hoot? I've lost my job. It's like, yes, Luke, you're correct. This is not something we need to worry about at all.
Oh, no, Luke.
Not even a bit. I mean, I hope you find work, Luke.
Yeah, no, me too. Luke, I'm glad that you've decided to put the article in a sharp perspective.
It really does.
For a lot of the people who have taken
stark relief.
That guy who was
wokes.
That guy wasting his time feeling sorry for today's kids because they don't look up at the sky.
The woke stars want us to live in a grid.
Oh, the world's too lit already. No use for lanterns.
A grid does have corners, I realise, as I said.
Don't worry about it.
Last two little brief bits from the news section. One of them, I was just searching Halloween on all these horrid sites, and this one was an article that was spun entirely from one Instagram post Vanessa Hudgens did of herself dressed up for Halloween. And the top comment that I saw and then decided I didn't need to see anymore was glorifying death. Next. The last few comments to read from people, from, the great British public, and I know you do as well, think they are great. Like, we should get that out.
That's what they're called. They're called the Great British Public.
For a reason, right? And it's
they're from Great Britain.
Yeah. This is from the CBBC Newsround site. And so these are children, I think, commenting. And what was interesting is that
I'm going to say that I don't think it's children commenting.
I think it is. Having read them, I think it is. They're all discussing.
Don't overestimate the average British adult.
But they talk about TikTok a lot in a way that is too specific for adults to really, myself included, know what they're going on about. And talk about besties and BFFs. Also the comments are just much nicer.
I was in the background of a TikTok the other day.
That's big. In your school?
Yeah. I just wandered in. I did not dab.
You should have dabbed.
No,
you got it next time.
I don't want to let you down.
You could floss.
I don't want to let you down, and I don't want to make you feel bad.
Oh, go on.
Live on the pod, but dabbing,
right?
It's not what we thought it was with the kids.
What? I thought this was top cultural currency.
No, you'd think, right? And yet in the 6 or 7 weeks that I've been working at this school,
not as much dabbing.
I haven't seen a single dab.
That could be.
I've not heard mention of the dab. I dropped mention of the dab, and I got some kind of confused looks. You were like, "Come on, kid, let's dab on some numbers." You might have said. I didn't say that. No, I definitely didn't say anything like that. So I wouldn't have embarrassed myself by doing that.
Here is just a little selection of the what I'm going to call the youth's comments. And as I said, the main character of them was that they were engaging more intellectually with the question that this article posed. And it was an article kind of giving them a quite nicely written, very balanced overview of here are the pros, here are the cons of why we should consider doing Halloween differently this year. And then there was a little poll at the end they could vote on. I think it should be banned forever because I do not want to be scared at Halloween. All I do is listen to Halloween music and dress up, probably as Hermione. Lol. So definitely a child, I think, because it's got that kind of all over the place vibe.
That could be a child. It could also be any lib woman. Lib white woman.
They're called Turquoise Mermaid, which doesn't narrow that down.
Oh dear.
It all depends where you are because I love sweets. Very good.
That's fantastic.
Then there's a very strange...
This is much better discourse already.
It's just everyone was quite nice to each other, like even when they were disagreeing.
Yeah.
And it's quite weird actually because like the forum is not really a a concept for. Are these even Gen Z little kids who are like 12?
No,
at the moment?
younger.
Do we even have a name for that?
No,
Generation, whatever they're going to be called. The idea of like a forum is not really a thing that they interface with a lot. But here, it's a very old school thing. And they've sort of developed, or you can see some of them have developed, like, or rediscovered the idea of like forum signatures and stuff. So there'll be like turquoise mermaid here for chat about this, and then like weird emojis. It's very funny. I put I'm not sure in the poll. I put this because I'm vegetarian and I've never been trick-or-treating before. And then someone replied, well, you know what happens in trick-or-treating, so what do you think? And then someone else replied, hey, I'm vegetarian, never done trick-or-treating either. I just love having fun at home in a Halloween costume. And then the real voice of reason says,
people.
what's being vegetarian got to do with trick-or-treating?
I'm presuming they're worried that there might not be like gelatin-free sweets or something.
Yeah, I guess that could be it, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference between...
Imagine going, like, that is a spitting image sketch, isn't it?
The wokes having to...
You, like, knocking on the door for trick or treat, and then you, the humble, the, like, normal, the average guy, offering them a bowl of sweets.
And I'm getting turned down by wokes.
One of them, and they're like, oh, sorry, is this gluten-free?
Some people can't
maybe it's Greta Thunberg, and she's like, oh, is this...
it's very funny when people have like a medical...
It's
thing.
great. And then like they're like,
choice.
Yeah, no, that choice is...
it is funny when people try to be ethical,
isn't it?
What's the difference between getting sweets from a shop and getting them from a neighbour? It's probably been touched by more people when you buy it from the shop. Also, if someone has COVID, I'd like to think they have the sense not to answer the door.
You would like to think that?
And then the last
the big difference, I don't know if you've made an account to comment,
no,
but
I think I go to prison.
Is that it's free.
That's true. I do hope everyone can still celebrate Halloween and do trick-or-treating as well. I like some of them are written
I
where
want to know what the people who are enjoying it alone dressed up indoors by themselves are doing.
Vibing. Just be vibing, dabbing.
Children be vibing.
Yeah. By the way, this year of 2020 is definitely a year to remember. Of course, no child can spell the word definitely correct.
No.
Defiantly a year to remember. When I'm older, I will surely remember this year.
Why can they all spell defiantly?
Yeah,
like, they all can. It's like my girlfriend, how she doesn't know her left and right. But it's not that she doesn't know them. There's no 50-50 chance she gets it. She will always get it wrong. So she does. She's got it backwards.
Needs to remember
like why do they all know how to spell defiantly?
Times like this bring the world closer and friendship is strengthened. ... If your friends have not stuck by you, they are fake. And then the last...
You can cut them out, and that is self-care. I've read about that from the
final little cap off from Crazy Rainbow Plane. Looked at the poll, wasn't happy to see that a fifth of people wanted Halloween cancelled. I want sweets. 20% of people are having a malfunction. That's very funny wording. Now, the last section is mercifully brief. We've got only 2 things to look at, and one of them is too startling to really get into in much detail. I discovered there's a charity, which seems like a very good charity. Mm-hmm. It's one of those, and I do find these a little upsetting, where they're doing good works, but they've got that hidden thing of like, after you've sort of done the good work, you try and convert people to Christianity.
Oh, that is
I do find that sort of upsetting. Not a big fan of Halloween, as you might expect, because they're super Christian. And so what they do every year is create this action pack, which is a big PDF that you can have shipped to you. And I accidentally did get one shipped to my mum.
Oh, no.
Because it made you put in an address to get the download. And then it was like, we've sent it. I was like,
oh God.
I put in a very weird fake name as well. So good luck.
I was just thinking, sorry to interrupt, the charity. Do you think there's any way that we could market a kind of a massively pro-Christian Halloween?
Right.
Based around the whole idea of it's the Holy Spirit's night as well.
Yeah, probably.
And we could get all of their dollar.
We could get like, what are they called? The big band, the big Christian band, Hillsong.
There we go.
We get them to do a song.
The ones who in our first episode you referred to as Hillsborough.
That was unfortunate. How times have changed. They create this pack around, in my view, a sort of mistakenly chosen mascot, Patch the Pumpkin, who does look like this. Now, just given
God.
They've managed to make him much scarier than the
than
the coronavirus mask. He's huge.
He is like 8 feet tall.
He's like a snowman whose head is sort of blowing up as you look at
What
him.
they've done, they've made the age-old mistake of I'm just going to hold for a second while I explain. I won't drop, I
No,
promise.
it's fine. I was going to look at more notes.
They've made the age-old mistake of deciding to create an entire costumed character out of an object that is just a sphere.
It's just the head part.
Yeah.
So the body was always
it is a pumpkin.
Up.
The head is a pumpkin. Fine. Its eyes are very close together.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. So he is a predator. They are on the front. He's got a kind of very vacant smile.
He's got an entourage, you'll see in one of the pictures.
I'm not looking at that because it is captioned "Wow!" exclamation mark. Now there's a sound file underneath that's very disturbing to me. I'm not going to click on that. But the rest of him, therefore, is just kind of a very prison-esque orange jumpsuit.
Yeah. He looks like he's an orange that's been arrested.
With green gloves, which I think are supposed to be leaves, just like the pumpkin.
So he doesn't leave fingerprints wherever he goes.
Oh, there we go.
Reason.
He's also photographed in that very haunting light that is just a flash in front of a brick wall at night. So he's very lit up.
And they've gone for... I mean, there's always the challenge of when you're making a costume like this, picking what the default expression is going to be. So that it's sort of applicable in more than one context.
Yeah.
So like Mickey Mouse needs to look happy, but sometimes like much happier than the last time. So they've got to be able to emote through it, which is hard. But here they've gone for... what would it look like if he were in a K-hole?
It's very like Randall McMurphy at the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Super out of it. They have this whole pack that includes a song that I'm going to play a little bit of momentarily.
Don't worry about that. Don't do that.
Which they
I don't want to hear
They
it.
say this amazing bit, which is that the song is basically one chord forever and one lyric forever.
Okay.
And then they say chorus 1 and 2 can be sung over the top of each other, forming, and this, I'm doing a master's in music, so I can confirm it's technical. Explain. Forming, quote, a bit of harmony. So it's good if you're looking for just
there
a tad.
Is just a touch of harmony. Yeah. If you want to dip your toe in harmony.
I'm going to play the song and then we'll talk over it because you don't need to hear that much. It's very upbeat and the lyrics are to do with loving God more than Patch, although Patch does feature towards the end, I believe. If you sing along. Shine God's.
I don't know this one, but...
Now, while this is on,
share God's love, share God's light.
I'll just tell you about Patch the Pumpkin's Light, which is one of the events that you can do. This is carving a pumpkin by any other name, but crucially, they wanted to make it differentiated, so there's nothing to do with demons. And one of the steps, in fact, 2 of the steps, have been sort of godded in a way that I think you'll find quite subtle. It says, in front of the children, you hold the pumpkin turned around so you can only see a plain pumpkin. You can ask them questions about what they see to keep them engaged, which to me
will be a pumpkin.
Short-lived.
Yeah.
Then show how God cleans up the yuck inside us. Leave a handful of pumpkin seeds and fleshy goop inside for volunteer children.
God. Oh no.
Or yourself to scoop out and make clean. Pop a lit LED tea light into the pumpkin and explain how God replaces the yuck with his light. Horrible.
God is diddling these kids.
Then turn around the pumpkin for the children to see the light shining out of Patch, who, as you've described, would be quite an alarming person to see incandesce in front of you, and explain how this is God's light shining out of each of us when we know Christ. Let's turn that godforsaken
like
thing
a kind of lobotomized Cheshire cat.
I'm going to finish us off with one more thing, and then we simply must end because there's too much. What I found is that Halloween is too much.
I've never said this before. I didn't ever think I would.
Go on.
You can have too much ethnography.
There's too much lived experience in regards to Halloween. Especially in the minds of the UK
especially
populace.
Contemporary.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I wanted to really focus it. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, I did a sort of introduction that was quite academic. So people will be realising.
I didn't pick up on that, but maybe the listeners did.
This is like Audio JSTOR for most people. End of the World Omen will appear on Halloween as Rare Blue Moon, claims evangelist Sebastian Ketley. Oh no, he's not the evangelist. Sebastian Ketley wrote this article. Now, I looked into this guy because this is on, I think this is the Express, and he's allegedly the science editor. But of his last 7 articles, 3 of them are about this one evangelist. One of them is about aliens. It's all it's the loosest use of science that I've seen in some time. The supposedly prophetic blue moon will light up the night skies on October 31st, the day of spooky Halloween. This will be the first blue moon to arrive on Halloween since 2001.
Oh, right.
And another one will not appear until...
Oh, God.
2039.
That's not that
It's just
far.
every 19 years.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
In an eerie coincidence, this will also be the first blue moon visible to all US time zones. But is this enough to call it a prophetic sign?
No.
Our sources say no. According to Paul Begley, a TV evangelist and online personality from West Lafayette,
Go
Indiana,
on, what does he say?
the blue moon will most certainly be a biblical sign.
Now, I don't want to pop the tinfoil hat on,
Yeah.
but does Paul Begley, was it?
Begley. Mr. Begley, we can call him.
Does Reverend Begley,
Yeah.
does he have any kind of a vested interest in it being a
You're
a
asking if
godful
he's
sign?
like a sort of evangelical, crazy guy. Like
he doesn't have to be
god
crazy.
nut.
What I'm saying is, what if he's, because you hear about some of them, and it is all the ones I've encountered, but I hear also it's just some.
It could be Paul that's the outlier.
Is it that where they're actually, it's a big grift and they are making a lot of money?
Oh, I can't imagine that's the case.
Okay,
I really
that's
can't.
cool.
The moon will peak in brightness just 3 days before the US election, which Pastor Begley has called the most important in American history. I like that it's him that's called it that, rather than all the other people who have called it that.
Yeah, well, he was the first.
The blue moon,
moon told
this
him.
is just commentary now, will also arrive at a time of civil and political unrest across the globe. The deadly coronavirus pandemic, as well as wildfires.
As opposed to every other time
Every
a
other
blue
moon.
moon has been there and there's been world peace.
All of this combined, Begley believes, has been foretold in the Christian Bible.
I go on, why? I don't remember it myself.
He said, and this I think will clear this up for you because
Okay, that's good.
you're a details guy and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Something biblical is going on, guys. Something really biblical. Wildfires are happening every year. US elections happen every 4. One of those things more sort of related than the other because one of them is just a cycle we've chosen.
Well, that does just happen, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't all come together during a blood moon and then a blue moon. What? In a COVID pandemic, plandemic, coronavirus, China coronavirus, call whatever you want to. Something biblical is going on here, guys. With the signs of the second coming of Christ.
Hang on, sorry.
It's unbelievable.
No. You can't say plandemic and then Chinese flu and then be like,
He's really
something
having his
biblical's happening.
Something biblical is going on. It's just such a great, that could be his MSN
Could be anything,
status all year round. Pastor Begley, like many evangelicals, awaits the day of the prophesied second coming of Jesus Christ. Although the Bible does not state when this will happen, Jesus has told his disciples and followers to look out for the prophesied signs, says the science editor.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Pastor Begley attempts to predict these signs on an almost daily basis on his YouTube channel.
He wakes up and he's thinking non-stop signs.
Saw another sign in his dream, as well as his weekly TV series, The Coming Apocalypse. He interprets wars.
Imagine having a weekly TV series called The Coming Apocalypse.
I'd love to see how long it's been going
where
for.
you're technically right up until it happens.
I love this sentence as well. I don't think it's intended to be silly, but it just really undermines itself. He interprets political unrest, natural cataclysms, cosmic phenomena, wars, and rumours of wars
At the end of-
as signs of his second coming.
At the end of the episodes, do you think that they do a next week on The Coming Apocalypse?
It's 1 week
just
closer.
constantly saying, like, just disproving their own theory.
In the Old Testament and New Testament alike, it states that there will be signs of the second coming, although it is hard to put a finger on any specific modern day event. Jesus said in Matthew 24, you remember, what did he say? Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. However, the Bible also makes a very clear point about not attempting to predict when any of this will unfold. Jesus
And it's
said,
good to know that Pastor Paul has taken that in his stride.
I love it's the same thing with the Westboro Baptist Church because they're like biblical literalists. I like people who are claiming to be so evangelical and fundamental, but have then ignored something so explicit, like when Jesus says, love your neighbour, and they interpret that to be, oh, well, technically, if you're picketing,
Yeah, but what he meant was not the gays.
then it counts as love. Here, like Jesus could not have been more unequivocal in his condemnation of Pat's guessing grift when he says, about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son himself, but only the Father. And in any case, finishes the article with a sudden sort of volta where they just sort of turn against everything they've said. In any case, the blue moon is not a prophetic harbinger. It is simply the second of 2 full moons that will peak next month. It's like, well, why didn't you leave
What a
that?
good use of words you've done.
I'm going to leave us on something which will take 30 seconds more and which really surprised me, which is that I think this was from the Express. I think I've said all of them are
You've
from
said
any
you think
paper.
all of them are from the Express.
They were a mix of the Express, the Standard, the Mail and the Sun. Not the Sun, actually. I cut that one. The Sun I kept the headline in because in my intro, I'd facetiously tried to do that thing that we talked about last time where the creepypasta people come up with weird, like, epithets for people, like the famous cartoon video game mascot Mario.
Yeah.
In the Sun's headline, they had, where is it? Every year, Halloween is full of pumpkins, sweets, spookiness, and scary costumes, but in 2020, the annual scary holiday Halloween will be different to previous years. Which is, first of all, not news to say it will be different.
In case you haven't heard.
But whatever the site was that this one is on, that this guy's science editor for, they've been running a sort of weeks-long poll, which seemed to me a sort of weird thing for a fairly mainstream outlet to be running.
Yeah.
Across multiple articles by this science editor, the title of which is, Do You Believe in the Second Coming of Jesus Christ? The options are unsure, it all seems unbelievable to me, no, I do not believe in the Bible's tales, or of course, it is simply a matter of time.
What's up with the poll? Like, whatever the findings, does the science editor then believe that?
That is science, yeah.
He
That's
has to
induction.
back that up.
76% of respondents have said, of course, it's simply a matter of time. That's really
76?
really thrown me off. Unless it's being like
Wow.
astroturfed by religious
By big
fanatics.
God.
Who knows what's going on? So, there we have it.
me.
We have dived deep, we have dived broad, we have dived long.
We've dived fast.
Yeah. Into the wide world of Halloween, and not just in the abstract, in the kind of our relation to its spooky saviour qualities, but in the sense of how is average Joe interfacing
The many
with the holiday?
sort of phantom fetid tendrils that it sends out into the big wide world and manifests itself in the lives of people.
Yeah, ordinarily we're not hot on that. We're mostly
we
interested in our own perspectives on the Ween.
Yeah, well, they're the ones about which we know the most.
Yeah, and they're the best ones too.
That's what I've heard.
But it was great to hear just how bad and wrong everyone else
It's
is.
nice to have that backed up. Yeah.
And verily did we dive deep.
We did.
We've got something big coming up next week, and we haven't really decided what it is, but it's called Digital Fright Night.
That is how most of these are going to go.
Yeah.
We've got a name. We've got a kind of like
We've got a
post-it
font.
note concept
Yeah.
of what it could be.
That's a cool title for
Now,
sure.
what you might think of when you hear Fright Night
Yeah.
is a kind of very physical,
Yeah.
visual
Yeah.
experience.
A sort
And
of oral one for you when you get your gobs
And we're-
backed in at Thorpe Park. Do you remember when that happened to you?
we're,
His eyes remember.
I've lost my thought.
Don't stammer, dear.
We're promising you not that.
Okay, yeah.
We're
it's gonna be
promising you
quite
not
far
that.
from-
It will be.
It's Web 2.0.
And it's not that we don't want to do that. It is that it can't be done. We've had a look. The technology is not there yet.
Some of the laws, like, sure, if it weren't 2020, we'd have our usual annual tractor off and our trunk and treat. But yeah,
Oh, we'd be inviting you down to the trunk and treat. Eyes
it's
would be in
sad.
the boot,
It's
and
sad.
he'd be leaping out at you.
yeah, I'd be booing you around every dark corner I could find.
We'd both be staggering.
Oh,
we've
yeah,
been
doing our zombie
practicing for
walks.
months.
That was really good.
But we will be bringing you something akin to that, but very much, and this must be stressed, in the aural zone.
Yeah, it's going to be big, whatever it is. Now, one other thing that's probably going to happen, I won't say definitely because we've not discussed it, but what we did briefly, is that we need to do some video content.
Yeah, we do.
And so we might do some, like a night of streaming spooky games or something.
Yes, I have half term as the
Yeah.
last week of the month,
So-
leading up to the big spook night itself. So definitely,
So you're locking in
that
a
week.
24-hour spookathon, it sounds like.
Yeah, that sounds like
Sounds
what I'm
like it's
doing,
gonna be
doesn't it?
big.
Yeah,
Sounds
sure.
like it's going to be huge.
At least it's 24 hours in which I can't spend all that money I don't have.
Perfect. And all the donations we'll get. It'll be
Yeah,
crazy.
well, that's going to be big as
That'll
well.
be over at twitch.tv/ I don't know.
I think, can you not just go to
I think you go-
shame.city/Twitch?
Yeah, and then
Probably
'cause
easier.
I don't remember what we're called, so you'll go there.
No,
I think
yeah.
it was Shame City TV. I just remembered.
Yeah.
But go shame.city/Twitch. That's good. While we're on hyperlinks, shame.city/Discord. Pop over there for some spooky chat.
Shame.city/review or reviews.
Yeah, you can click it from the link as well. Give
That's
us a
big, isn't
5-star
it?
review for Spooktober, won't you? We're working our little socks off here.
You can head over to Twitter, twitter.com that is, and go to @ShameCityGang, and that's where we are. That's one of the places we are. And we'll be posting a great big artwork.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. It's going to have the coronavirus mask and patch on it for today.
I don't think it needs
It's
to.
good. You're
I
going to be able
think
to
it-
see
I
them with
think
your
it
eyes,
needn't.
guys.
Yeah.
And of course, Isaac at Shame.City, solicitations still open for your big ideas for DeltQuest.
And how many have you had so far?
Oh, loads. It's really off the chain.
bad.
People have got some really vulgar ideas, and I'm incorporating them all.
If anyone has any gamer words they'd like me to say in order to disrupt the recording of DeltQuest, you can send those to me at Declan at
Declan's
Shame.City.
Reddit profile. That's about it, isn't it? Wommibomb. It's a spooky month, and there's nothing spookier than sidling right up to a friend. No mask. Mask at all.
Definitively ending a friendship by recommending to them this
big,
show.
bad show. Until Digital Fright Night, in which I hope you'll be participating broadly and with an open mind. I've been Isaac. You've been...
I have been Declan.
See you next time, gang.
The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you.